17,500 feet beneath the Pacific, the lost World War II carrier USS Hornet vanished for 82 years, waited in silence, her scarred hull still upright, her signal bridge intact, guarding the secrets of a war that changed the world. How did this bold symbol of American power launch the Doolittle Raid, help turn the tide at Midway, and then disappear beneath the waves? Her fate a mystery buried for generations. Now that she's been found, an urgent question rises with her from the deep. What truly happened on her decks? And why did the Hornet's legacy echo long after she sank? The answer begins at her birth with the dawn of a new era in naval warfare. The story of the USS Hornet, a tale every American should know, begins in 1940 on the docks of Virginia. Men and women at Newport News laid her keel while thousands more rolled her steel in Gary and Pittsburgh. Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, milled the fine tolerances of her guns. Skill and speed, those twin virtues, were poured into every rivet, every plate. By October 20th, 1941, uniforms crisp and backs straight, the officers and men of the Hornet assembled on deck to commission the Navy's newest carrier. She was built like a heavyweight champ. Everyone aboard knew it. 6 months later, Hornet's flight deck would play host to a secret that defied naval tradition. 16 Army B-25 bombers, each one a land-based giant, squatted nose to tail across the planks. The men who lashed them down, blue jackets and Army airmen working elbow to elbow, knew the risks. No one had ever tried to launch bombers this size from a carrier at sea. Jimmy Doolittle, already a legend among pilots, led the raiders. He walked the deck that morning, checking each crew, every last bomb shackle. His face set for what lay ahead. April 18, 1942. Hornet turned into the wind, engines roaring, the deck pitching under gray skies. Every inch of space mattered. The lead bomber had barely 467 feet to reach flying speed. Deck crews gave the signal, and Doolittle's plane thundered forward, wheels lifting just above the bow. One by one, the bombers followed, each takeoff a gamble against the sea. The roar faded eastward, carrying America's answer to Tokyo. Back on the Hornet, sailors watched the sky in silence, knowing they had changed the war's direction. In that hour, the Hornet was no longer just steel and engines. She was a symbol. Her courage broadcast across 2 oceans and straight into the heart of a nation searching for hope. June 1942, the Pacific was a chessboard, and Hornet sailed into its most decisive game. At Midway, her decks bristled with dauntless dive bombers and devastator torpedo planes, crews tense, knowing the fate of the war might ride on their shoulders. Torpedo Squadron 8, led by Lieutenant Commander John Waldron, launched into the morning haze. 15 planes, each barely armored, pressed home their attack against the Japanese fleet. Not one returned. Out of 30 airmen, only NN George Gay survived, rescued hours later from the drifting wreckage. Their sacrifice bought time for the dive bombers to strike. A price paid in full measure. Hornet's air group scoured the ocean for enemy carriers, often flying on little more than compass bearings and hope. Confusion and exhaustion haunted the ready rooms. Yet in those 3 days, 4 Japanese carriers were lost. Midway became the turning point, but the cost was steep. The Hornet's own squadrons were battered, pilots lost, and the ship's air wing left searching for missing friends after every mission. The months that followed offered no rest. By August, Hornet stood alone as the last American fleet carrier in the South Pacific. Each day brought new alarms: enemy bombers over Guadalcanal, torpedo wakes slicing the water, and the constant drone of general quarters. Her crew supported the Marines ashore, launching sorties to cover supply convoys and fend off relentless Japanese attacks. Sleep came in stolen hours, nerves frayed by the grind of attrition. Deck crews patched bomb holes between raids. Gunners stared through smoke at incoming silhouettes. In those weeks, the Hornet's men learned that survival was measured not in victories, but in endurance. The shadow of loss grew longer, and every flight carried the weight of those who never came back. October 26, 1942, The Hornet's final morning began with the low drone of enemy aircraft approaching fast, first as specks, then as a swarm. At 9:10, the first bombs struck home, tearing through the flight deck and sending steel splinters flying. Explosions ripped open hatches, shattered elevators, and left the hangar deck burning, the air filled with choking smoke and the sharp tang of aviation fuel. Men rushed fire hoses through corridors slick with oil, dragging wounded shipmates out of the flames. The deck shook again as a Japanese dive bomber, crippled and trailing smoke, dove straight into the island stack. The impact knocked out communications, set the bridge ablaze, and left the command center in chaos. Above, the signal bridge twisted under the heat, while below, engineering crews fought rising water in the dark, every compartment echoing with the roar of ruptured pipes and the hiss of escaping steam. Captain Charles P. Mason walked the battered decks, his uniform soaked and blackened. He called out orders, his voice steady over the din. Damage control teams crawled through knee-deep water, sealing off flooded compartments as best they could. Forward, the fires raged unchecked, licking at ammunition stores. The Hornet's list grew sharper with each passing hour. By midday, the power was gone. No lights, no radios, no pumps. The ship drifted helplessly, her guns silent, her air crews grounded. With enemy bombers circling for another attack and flames racing below, Mason made his decision. The order passed from mouth to mouth: abandon ship. Sailors scrambled to the rails, some helping the injured, others clutching life jackets. Many hesitated for a final look at the ship that had carried them through battle after battle. One by one, they plunged into the sea, scattered among burning debris and oil slicks. Destroyers moved in, braving the danger to pull men from the water. Mason stayed until the last, scanning the decks for any sign of life before stepping over the side himself. The Hornet, battered and blazing, was left alone on the Pacific, her fate now sealed by fire and salt water. The Hornet drifted alone, battered but unwilling to yield. As dusk settled on October 26th, the last American sailors watched from destroyer decks while their ship floated, flames flickering from shattered hatches. Orders came down. She must not be left for the enemy. Destroyers Muston and Anderson circled, launching torpedo after torpedo, 9 in all, each meant to send her under. Most ran cold or struck without the force to break her. Shells raked her hull, 400 rounds in a grim salute, but still she refused to go down. Her compartments, divided and armored by design, held back the sea as if the ship herself would not surrender. Night deepened. From the east, Japanese destroyers Makigumo and Akagumo arrived, their crews silent as they loaded the famed Long Lance torpedoes. Just after midnight, 4 silver streaks cut through the darkness. Explosions rocked Hornet's remains, her bow rose, then slipped beneath stern last at Aero 235 on October 27th. 20 worn aircraft remained trapped in her hangar, the stars and stripes still flying as she vanished into the black. For decades, her fate was sealed in rumor and memory. Families mourned without a grave. Historians pieced together her final hours from scattered logs and survivor tales. The Pacific kept it secret for 82 years. Then in January 2019, the research vessel Petrel scoured battle charts and sonar maps, launching remote vehicles into the abyss. At 17,500 PAR FT their cameras found Hornet upright, scarred but unmistakable. Her signal bridge stood silent. Decks buckled where bombs had struck, a time capsule of courage and loss. On board Petrel, voices fell quiet, some wept, the long wait for answers was over. A ghost of war found at last, still standing guard over her crew. In January 2019, the research vessel Petrel located USS Hornet's wreck at a depth of 17,500 afoot near the Solomon Islands. Her battered hull remains upright, a silent witness to the 140 men lost on October 26, 1942 during the Battle of Santa Cruz. The documentary traced Hornet's journey from her commissioning in 1941 through the Doolittle Raid and Midway to her final fight and sinking. Despite 9 U.S. torpedoes and hundreds of shells, Hornet only slipped beneath the waves after Japanese destroyers delivered the final blows. Some details of her last minutes remain unclear as wartime records and survivor accounts sometimes conflict, and parts of the official after-action reports are still classified. Yet the rediscovery of Hornet brings closure to families and historians, offering physical proof of sacrifice and endurance. Today, Hornet's story stands as enduring evidence of courage and the high cost of war, her legacy preserved both above and below the waves.